going to use a news release from a few months ago from NGEx Minerals. This is a TSX-listed company. We look at this example while giving some background as to why each item is significant. In addition, you want to stay until the end because you'll get a bonus, number 10. All right, so the first item is the type of asset. We need to learn the type of asset, the type of deposit that this announcement or report is referring to. This is usually where we want to start because we can connect that to what we know about the particular type of deposit. And this goes back to, as investors, we start developing our own abilities, our own research understanding. And as this process, moves forward and the years go by, you start to become either more comfortable or you've had some good experiences with one particular type, so you understand it better. So you want to know whether that we're talking about, the object of the announcement or report is either of those. Ideally, it's going to give you an edge. And here's where it can get tricky because sometimes companies don't actually state in their announcements the type of asset. And I found that this is typically for 3 reasons. First, which is the most common one, I would say, is that the deposit is still being understood. So while there may be some indications of the where things are going, let's say it that way, because geologists need to understand, or not understand, but they need to start with a hypothesis. So if they are doing specific work, they're doing a drill program, they need to have a potential scenario of where this is going. So that's why they're always going to have some idea of where they want to go. But if they're not certain, they can't really say it. These indications or clues may not be sufficient for the QP, for the qualified person or competent person in Canada and Australia, respectively, to say it clearly. So if that's the case, you're going to get in the announcement, you're going to see it's likely to be, is similar to, or something along those lines. Very often you're going to see an example of another deposit type that fits or likely fits the description of the, or is similar to the deposit that the announcement is referring to. The second reason is that there may be more than one deposit type within the specific project that we're talking about. So let me just put a pin for a second and differentiate between project and deposit. So a project is a collection of different tenements or properties and may contain more than one deposit. So it may contain just one or may contain many. So that's going to be the second option. So if you have more than one deposit within this particular project that the announcement refers to, they may leave it out just to avoid confusion. So that's number 2. And the third reason, especially recently, I'm seeing this more. It's my interpretation. So I could be wrong, but I think they assume that is too complicated. Investors may not care, may not understand, and they just leave it out. So if in the end, it doesn't really matter for your research, it doesn't matter which one it is, but it does matter for the actual assessment, because if you want to if you want to, like, if you have more than one deposit within one particular project, it may be a good thing because there may be much more than just one single asset, and the project may end up having a much larger scale. All right, so if you can't see it, you're going to have to go and find it in either just the website, dig in a little bit. Sometimes you're going to have to go as deep as finding a technical report. I've had cases where it was nowhere to be seen, and I had to find this obscure detail and just find it that way. This deposit in the case of NGEx, it's a copper, gold, silver, high sulfidation epithermal deposit. I know that's it's a mouthful. Likely, as we said, of a much larger porphyry epithermal system. So as we've seen, when deposits have similar origins, you'll see that they can occur together, as we said before. So perfect. And we really like these projects. We understand them. So for us, this is a big check. Let's keep going. Now we go to number 2, which is the name of the asset. This is just for proper housekeeping. Since companies usually have more than one project, you want to ensure that you're not commingling or mixing up results from different projects. Note that sometimes announcements may be regarding targets within the same project, and targets are different than deposits. So a target is part of a deposit. So within a specific project, you may have different deposits, and within the deposits, you may have different targets. Targets may end up generating more deposits as well. And here's an important distinction: is companies very often change names. The companies change name, but also they change name of their projects. So you may want to make sure that you have any name changes, because that may give you some extra information. So in this case that we're analyzing, we can see that the project refers to the Lunahuasi project. And this, at the time of this announcement, this was a rather new project. So, even better if you know how new to the company is. And here's a fun fact about NGEx. The NG part is comes from no guts, no glory. We usually need to find out the financial situation by going through financial statements and the annual reports, because we want to have an estimation of, so when is the next time these guys are going to need more money? Because, especially if it's an exploration company that has obviously no revenue, they fund themselves through capital raises. So we want to have an estimation of when is the next time that's coming, because that's going to be important. Usually you'll see that companies that are well-funded are going to say that they are well-funded, because it's, especially in a tough market, it's a very big differentiator. And so these guys, they're well-funded, Lundin after all. All right. Number 4 is the type of grades that are being reported. And this can get really controversial. There's some very vocal opinions about this, is whether the company is reporting grades, actual grades, or grade equivalents. And the difference is going to be in grade equivalents is going to contain other minerals, other metals that contribute to the particular deposit. So in a production scenario, you will have a portion of production that is going to be any of these other byproducts, and these may contribute to the revenue of the mine. When it's just the grade, we're talking only about the percentage of a specific metal in the ore being extracted or even assayed, so evaluated by labs. So that is going to have just the metal and the let's say in this particular case copper, so Cu, and if it's equivalent, it's going to have copper equivalent. In this case, for the announcement, we have a section here from the drill hole number 21 that intersected 772.5 meters are 1.6 copper equivalent. And that's telling us that they are reporting the results in equivalent grades. Normally, we prefer to see directly the grades, directly just the metal, but in this particular case, they are reporting copper equivalent grades. But here's when this is not really an issue. In this particular release, we get the copper equivalents, but we do get also a detailed results sheet with the gold and silver content, plus the formula they are using to calculate the copper equivalent. So that's really important. So you want to see that they are giving you all the information if you want to dive deeper and get more granular into this. And the specific analysis of this section is that although they are reporting copper equivalent grades, they are not really hiding anything, because that's the danger. If I didn't say it, that's the danger with the copper equivalent grades. You may kind of hide something that is not as good, because, oh, look at all these shiny numbers and all these shiny percentages. But in this particular case, you go to the detail sheet and, like, seriously, this is a stunning deposit. And just one for this release, for this program, of this set of analysis that were reported in this announcement, there was one, and I'm gonna read, 0.13 copper. So there was one value that was low, that was 0.13, one value that was 0.13%. That's just one. It was completely an outlier. So the grades are really consistent and really quite. Number 5, drilling type and drilling program. Depending on the type of program, you'll have a range of potential outcomes or typical outcomes. For instance, when it's a maiden or a step-out program, given the company is just testing, it's either a new project with the maiden or step out a new area within a project. Anything can happen, including, a total dud, really. I was thinking about Total Eclipse of the Heart for some reason, the song. Anyway, so in going on the other direction, you can find for instance, an infill program is usually used when there's significant knowledge in the particular project, and you have an expectation that the results are going to be consistent, that are going to be good. And because an infill program is usually done when you're either nearing feasibility or working towards getting near. So the understanding of the projects is quite significant at that point. So you are supposed to get very consistent values. And if you don't, if it's an infill program and you don't, then that's a problem. That's a sign or a signal, or a red flag, I would say, even on its own right. And also when it's an infill program, you're not going to see a lot of reaction to the share price because it's kind of priced in. So you are expecting that results are going to be good. You should be expecting that, and they should be. And this also relates with the Lassonde curve. That's usually in when you're doing a lot of infill drilling, the companies are typically in that kind of orphan phase where there's not a lot of interest, and the share price is typically kind of suffering. Now, in terms of techniques, diamond is the most expensive and gives the beautiful core samples. They're beautiful to me. I don't know if they're beautiful to everyone, but I love them. I've been around them my whole life. And so that type is the most expensive and gives you that core that can be, it's cut in half, and then usually the one half gets sent to the lab for analysis, and you keep in the project, usually in the project or nearby, there's usually a shed or some sort of storage, and you keep those, and you're using that to visually describe and look at the mineralization to kind of understand what's happening. So that is the most useful. And then you have other types. Usually, you have reverse circulation and air core that give you different degrees of crash samples, so it's not as easy to look at the information or visually look at that. But you can use other types of, an XRF gun, and you can use other things, of course, different substances that you can use to see if there's any reaction, and that may give you clues that geologists use. All right, so this is a diamond program, and it's a step out program. So that tells you that the company is investing in the most expensive type of drilling, and this is a new program, so anything could happen. And here, only one hole of the total didn't return significant results, and we'll have a link to the news release with all of the highlights that we've made, so that you can download that. So if you want that, you can find it in the description. This is so again, this is a step up program, and it's diamond. So only one hole didn't return significant results, and that's a pretty good outcome for a new program in a new project. Are you kidding me? It's fantastic. All right, let's keep going. So we talked about the type of grades before, but now we're talking about, well, how good are these grades? Are okay? Are this, stunning? And this is because grades for the same metal or mineral, grades vary per deposit type. So what is good for one type of deposit may not be for another one, or maybe in excess for another one. So it may end up being substantially better. So that's why we remember in step number 1, we were trying to find out what is this deposit actually estimated to be. Companies usually, and of course they're going to do that, they highlight the best results in their especially in the section that is actually highlighted, so the top part of announcements usually. But in this particular case, you go and check out the hole by hole, and as I said before, still significant grades. In this one, we're seeing here 1.13 copper equivalent, 1.6 copper equivalent. And then you see a section that it had 15%, 15.01. And then you have a section with 41%. So these are, and of course, gold is helping a lot because that's the other element here, but it's, it's substantial, very high grades for the type of deposit. Now we go to number 7. This is the potential size. So usually the announcement, or ideally the announcement, has some sort of mention of the, at least a rough idea of the size that this deposit could be with the current knowledge that, that the company has about it. And if that's not yet possible, at least it's going to say whether it's open in some or all directions. Ideally, that's what we want to see, that we prefer to see, that we love to see. And it can even be in depth or laterally, so it can vary. And this means, like, if it's open in depth, that means that the holes, even depending on how the inclination is, but that means that in those directions, the mineralization is still going. So the holes ended in mineralization, which is what you want to see usually. Like, you would like to keep drilling, but at some point you got to stop it. And that's fantastic because you're going to know that, okay, so we've got more, the body, the mineralized body is still, it continues. Basically, for this particular example, for the NGEx example, this is promising scale. What they say, that you have a distance. They're talking about a distance in terms of meters and area, and they're also talking about vertical meters. So in terms of depth, and it remains open in all directions. Landing, I think the what they're targeting here is something similar to Filo, which is 2.2 billion pounds, or even Jose Maria, which is a bit bigger, 6.7, I think it is, billion pounds copper. And we have been talking, on the side note, we have been talking a lot about this sort of intermediate to or small to intermediate projects, because we think that the potential for more deposits of this size that are easier to permit is going to be substantial. So we had an episode, a podcast episode about that. I'll leave a link of that as well. Yeah, so fantastic. Maybe this is another Filo. I think it's on that track. Number 8, depth of mineralization. This is referred to the expected depth that is going to be in line with the deposit type and the environment, aka the geology of this particular region. So it's not the same. They're not all the same. You're going to find wildly different examples. But in general, generalizing, want to start seeing mineralization before 300 meters. So, in 100, 200 ideally, because shallow results are going to point to easier mining processes and potentially lower capex. And obviously, you're talking open pit. If we're talking open pit, that's an example. So for this particular case, although we are talking about an area that is typically very common. It's very common in the Andes to drill substantial holes. So this is, without a doubt, a program with deep holes, especially if you ask an Australian geo. And I remember when I was still working in Argentina, I had so many comments about that from Australian geos, because the environment here is different, right? But in that region is very common. One hole even reached nearly 1,400 meters. But either way, as we said, now before 300 meters. And in this case, it's in 200. So it's deep, but it's not too deep, at least not for the environment. We go to number 9. We're nearing completion, and we get to the juicy part. We're getting to the juicy part. So the intercepts, we all live for the intercepts. First, the first clue is, and this can vary by deposit types and with exceptional grades, but you want to have intercepts wider than 100 meters, ideally. That's what you are looking for. And in this particular case, you have in this section, the section that we're highlighting here, over 700 meters. But in there's two cases in the rest of the release. There's two cases over 700 meters, and the grade is actually above 0.74% copper, and not copper equivalent. This is going through the detailed chart. So this, again, we're talking about outstanding results. And let's go through another line of this announcement. So we have the intercept length is what we just talked about, or intercepts, or width. So over 700 meters, very, very wide. Then you have the grade, which is 1.13%. And is it grade or grade equivalent? In this particular case, it's copper equivalent, but still super high and confirmed with the rest of the results. Then depth, it's below 300 meters, another check. And the hole number and type of drilling. So you have that this is hole number 20, and it's a diamond drill hole. And so here we have it all together. We have the deposit type, we have the project name, Lunahuasi, we have the what's the financial position, so we can estimate when the next capital raising potentially coming, how funded are they for this particular program, are they going to need to have more raises before they get to the next catalyst. Number 4, grades or grade equivalent, and always, if it's grade equivalent, always going back to the detailed charts and appendices. Number 5, the type of drilling, so that we can know if this is even better, if even it's expected, or we can have a sense of how close to expectations we came. Number 6, are these grades good for this deposit type? Not so good or fantastic? And number 7, in terms of scale, is it open in all directions? What's the rough idea of what potential size with the current knowledge? And number 8, does the mineralization start before 300 meters deep? And in this case, yes, it does. The number 9, are the intercepts over 100 meters? Yes, they are. Another check. And what's the conclusion? Now we get to the almost end, not yet, because the bonus part is coming up. So in this example, after doing all this review, we see, this project ticks all the boxes. 9 out of 9 points, extremely promising. Grants at the time granted further analysis, and we were so happy to catch this. And you can see that from the announcement to now, the company has soared. So it was a fantastic catch. And now for the bonus, the key piece of information number 10, which is jurisdiction. And I talk a lot about this. It's not the same to have a deposit in the middle of the Saharan Desert or the Australian Outback or the Andes. They're all going to have different risk profiles in terms of what jurisdiction means. And this is obviously going to go back to how stable the jurisdiction, how stable the country is, how fulfills or keeps their promises in terms of law and all of that. Argentina, in our view, is going to keep getting support as long as the government can continue having this pro-market attitude and continue doing all the reforms and all the improvements that they are working on towards having a better future. And if they can deliver improvements for the population, I think that's something quite possible if they can do that, which is not, it does have its own risks, but I think it's a very promising situation at the moment. The reality is that Argentina could become fairly significant. We're talking about a country that shares a border with Chile, the largest copper producer. So many of these deposits straddle across the Andes. So that could potentially be something that brings Argentina to that top 5 podium, in my view. And this is getting now shown by some of the largest companies. BHP and other majors have come back, are coming back. I don't know if you just happen to run into this video, you may not know, but my dad was a copper porphyry expert, and he worked for BHP for many years until BHP left the country, and that was a long time ago. So they were decades away, and the fact that they're coming back now, I think it gives a very substantial signal for anyone looking at Argentina. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown, and this was something that I wanted to do for some time, and I finally managed to have some time to do it. And let me just say, this is obviously not financial advice, but and it's a simplification, but I think it can give you a very clear way to get with your own review. And we have a bunch more resources for anyone wanting to look into this in more detail. We have the annotated announcement. You can find that in the description. There's a bunch of information in our blog. And yeah, so that's all for me today. And thank you for watching. And I hope you can come and hang out some other time with me. Bye.